So there is a challenge with virtual environments. Actually, we're going to talk about virtual environments, but physical apply as well, to a geo-dispersed environment. And let's see how to actually fail over in a geographically dispersed environment. So here I'm coloring in different virtual machines on this physical server, VM1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to go ahead and talk about how do we fail this over. I'm not talking about virtual machine recovery, which is copying the virtual machine to a target site. I'm talking about the physical storage, everything, right? Well, let's draw out some storage here. Those VMs typically sit on some sort of external storage device. Could be internal, doesn't really matter. And they're allocated. And let's draw in kind of a second server here as well. Oh, before we go there, let's talk a little bit about management. So within the virtual machine manager, whatever you're using, there's some sort of table or correlation that says virtual machine number 1 operating system, its environment, equals X storage. The devil is in the details here, because access to X storage is going to be based upon MAC addresses, worldwide names, IP addresses, things of that nature. The bottom line is that manager needs to know where the information for virtual machine number 1 exists within your environment. So let's just kind of grow the problem a little bit with VMware 5 through 8 here I'm drawing on the screen, and we'll add a little more storage. Of course, this is a physical server here with some physical storage, and we have that direct mapping. Now, when we talk about failover of a virtual environment, and many virtual environments support this exceptionally well, we're really talking about local virtual machine failover. And what I mean by that is within the router. So failing over within the router is relatively simple. Lots of automation available today for all of your major players in virtual machines. Because either we have a storage local, as I'm drawing here, to that physical server, we're sharing storage. It really doesn't matter what the situation is, because the bottom line is, and we'll draw it here on the screen in just a second, it's all about the access and the marriage, right, between where that virtual machine is and its storage is. And all of this is dependent on the switch environment, what that IP schema looks like within your router, right, on your side of the router, not the external side of the router, on your side, your .10 addresses, right? You've got the schemas all set up, and you are managing that. Everything's kosher. You know exactly where everything is. Now, your whole world changes when you go to a geographically dispersed environment. Why? Because we have to go through the router, and the router does what? It NATs out the information, right, and translates it into an IP schema that's routable, that goes over, and then your geo-dispersed target site has a router that gets communicated with, then feeds down into a switch within that environment that, oh, by the way, communicates with those virtual machines that are existing within that environment as well. No different than your first environment, you still have an IP schema that is running within that geo-dispersed environment. The difference is you cannot broadcast the same type of IP addresses from both sites, or something will go wrong, right? You can't have duplicate IP addresses out there. So the virtual manager at the geographically dispersed site now needs to understand exactly what the mapping is between their virtual machines and their storage. Again, very dependent upon the IP schema. What is going on inside of the IP environment at that geographically dispersed site? That's an exclamation mark, by the way. I know it's not drawn very well. This is a critical factor in understanding how do I do quote unquote live state migration of my virtual machines from site A to site B that's geographically dispersed with a different network infrastructure. The solution is software-defined networking that supports geo-dispersed. Find other information on other videos within this channel.